The thin blue line is a phrase often used to describe police officers as the barrier between order and chaos. However, this concept can have negative effects on people of color. This is because it sometimes creates an us versus them mentality, where officers might see themselves as separate from the communities they serve. One major issue is qualified immunity, a legal doctrine that protects police officers from being sued for their actions on the job, even when they misuse their power. As the country grapples with these issues, it becomes clear that certain political leaders, like Donald Trump and the Republican Party, have policies that don't adequately address police violence against people of color.
A thin blue line. Roderick Brooks was just a regular brother, trying to get by in these hard times. Folks in the neighborhood knew him as Roddy. He had his share of struggles, like many do, but he wasn't no bad guy. July 2023, though, was the last chapter in his story. It was a hot Texas afternoon, the kind where the sun seems to bake everything it touches. Roddy found himself in a convenience store, the air conditioning a welcome relief from the blistering heat. But times were tight, and temptation loomed large. He pocketed a few items, hoping to slip out unnoticed. As he made his way to the door, a voice called out, "Hey you, stop right there." The store clerk had seen him. Roddy's heart raced. He bolted, his legs carrying him out into the scorching street. He thought he could make it, but the clerk had already called the cops. Officer Jenkins, a big man with a gruff demeanor, arrived on the scene. He was known for his heavy-handed approach, especially when dealing with folks from Roddy's side of town. Jenkins caught up to Roddy quickly. "Stop right there!" he commanded, his voice booming. Roddy kept running, but Jenkins was faster. The officer tackled him to the ground. A scuffle ensued, fists flying and bodies struggling for control. Jenkins, desperate to subdue Roddy, reached for his taser. "Don't tase me, man!" Roddy shouted, his voice a mix of fear and anger. But Jenkins wasn't listening. The taser prong struck Roddy, sending volts of electricity through his body. He convulsed, his muscles seizing up, but he still tried to get away. Jenkins, frustrated and angry, drew his gun. "Stop resisting," he yelled, but Roddy was in no state to comply. In the chaos, Jenkins' finger tightened on the trigger. The shot rang out, echoing through the street. Roddy's body went limp, a single bullet wound in his neck. Blood pooled beneath him, mixing with the dirt and sweat. Jenkins stood over him, panting, the realization of what he'd done slowly dawning on him. The neighborhood was in an uproar. People gathered, demanding answers, justice. Among them was Tanya, Roddy's sister, her eyes red from tears and rage. "This ain't right," she said to anyone who would listen. Roddy wasn't no saint, but he ain't deserved to die like this. Detective Harris, a seasoned investigator with a reputation for fairness, was assigned to the case. He knew the community was watching, waiting for justice. He started his investigation, interviewing witnesses and piecing together the events. One question loomed large. Was it necessary for Jenkins to use deadly force? "Did you see the whole thing?" Harris asked a bystander, an elderly man who'd been sitting on his porch. "Yeah, I saw it all," the man replied, his voice shaking. "That officer didn't need to shoot him. Roddy was already down." Harris noted the testimony. It matched what others had said. He reviewed the body cam footage, his heart sinking as he watched the final moments of Roddy's life. Days turned into weeks, and the pressure mounted. Protests erupted, people chanting Roddy's name, demanding accountability. In the end, Jenkins was placed on administrative leave, pending further investigation. But for many, it wasn't enough. Roddy's death was another painful reminder of a system that too often failed them. Tanya stood at her brother's gravesite, her heart heavy with grief. "I'll get you justice, Roddy," she whispered, a single tear sliding down her cheek. "I won't let them forget your name." The fight for justice was far from over. In the sweltering Texas heat, the community vowed to keep pushing, keep demanding, until the thin blue line was held accountable for the life it had taken.
The thin blue line can lead to harmful divisions and mistrust between police and communities of color. Qualified immunity further complicates the problem by making it difficult to hold officers accountable for their actions. Despite ongoing protests and calls for change, leaders like Donald Trump and the Republican Party have not taken significant steps to tackle the issue of police violence against people of color. As we consider the impact of these policies, we must ask ourselves, how can we create a more just system? What changes are necessary to ensure that everyone, regardless of their race, feels safe and protected by the police?
Watch the full video for all the information. Support the channel. Subscribe, like, comment, and share.